Hello and welcome to How to Get Into Your Dream B School, brought to you by the University of Tampa Sykes College of Business and Beat the GMAT. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Gary Christensen, and I'm going to kick off our webinar today. At any point in time during this webinar, please do feel free to start posing questions down in that chat window. If you're joining us today via telephone, all the lines are muted, so we won't be able to hear any questions that you might pose over the phone. So please just type those into the chat window, and once we get to the end of the presentation, we'll start addressing all those questions. So without any further ado, let's get started. So just to go over a quick roadmap of what we hope to accomplish today, first I want to make introductions of myself as well as two of my colleagues that are joining us today. They'll be jumping in partway through the call, or the webinar rather, and then we'll be getting into the actual tips and frequently asked questions that we get. We get a lot of interaction with students, and we've noticed a lot of trends of common questions they get about how to get into their first choice B school. So we hope to be able to address a lot of the highlights, and then through the chat that you all send your questions through, we'll be able to get some more information broadcasted out there. And then we'll go over the Q&A. So first off, my name is Gary Christensen. As I introduced myself earlier, I am the Director of Graduate Admissions and Enrollment Systems. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Kate and Tianu. They are both admissions counselors. Kate works with our population within the graduate business domestic students, and Tianu works with our international students. We have several other counselors that work within the graduate business population. And they are not able to join us today, but Kate and Tianu will do an excellent job of bringing us up to speed with everything else. So for the first tip that I'm going to be presenting today, it covers the application process. The first piece of advice that I have is to start your research process early. And by early, I mean it's never too early to start thinking about it. Even if you're in your freshman or sophomore year of college, you still want to start doing your research. If it's after that, it's never too late. Go ahead and get started as soon as possible. There are generally a lot of deadlines that happen early on for B schools, and the earlier you get into that pool, the better your chances are going to be. We only have so many seats that we can fill in our business programs, and the more full our program gets, the more selective we are, and generally the better the applications are that come in. So by doing your research early, you're going to have a few leads on everybody else. One, you're going to be in that pool much earlier, and two, you're probably going to have the opportunity to do better on your GMAT, make sure that you're doing well in your courses, make sure that you're selecting the right kinds of courses that B schools are looking at. B schools don't admit just based off of, oh, you look like you have a nice profile. It's also looking at very specific things, such as, the types of classes you're taking, for instance, which will lead into another one of our tips. But also, the next tip that I have within the application process is, make sure that you get your applications turned in before the deadline. If you're turning it in on the deadline day and you're waiting until 11:59 p.m. to get it submitted, that's almost always when the internet goes out or the printer stops printing or something goes wrong, and you want to make sure that you get your application in with plenty of time. And when I say the application, I'm referring to your actual packet of information. So not just the online application, but also transcripts, GMAT scores, your resume, any other required documents for the admissions committee to make a decision on your application. And you want to make sure that you get all those in well before the deadline, because generally those deadline days are pretty packed for the B schools because we're getting all the materials that come in. So usually with the Postal Service, we'll see a delay anywhere from 3 to 5 days usually from when you mail it. So whatever you do, try to make sure that you account for that when you're asking for materials to be sent to us. And also bear in mind that when you go to your registrar's office at your undergraduate program, it may not be the exact same day that they're actually submitting it. Now, the one major asterisk I have at the bottom is, these are very general guidelines. If there are any individual schools that have guidelines that vary from this, obviously for their program, that's going to supersede any of my advice that I'm giving today. But generally speaking, these are very, very commonly overlooked things, but things that are also critical. The second tip that I have is with regards to the resume. Most B schools require a resume because they want to get a better experience or a better look at what your experience is like experientially. So that's everything from being in the classroom as well as outside of the classroom, such as with internships. So for instance, when you're going through your undergraduate program, our Career Services office at the University of Tampa, for instance, they advise students to start looking at internships and thinking about what they're going to do in their freshman year, knowing all well that they're not going to actually be doing an internship until their junior year typically. But that internship is going to give you an edge in the B school application process because some students don't do them. A lot of students don't do them. And so by having that extra edge, when you walk into the classroom from the B school's perspective, you're going to walk into the classroom with a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot more thorough understanding of the difference between the applied sciences as compared to actually going out into the business world and actually putting these things into place. But one other type of experience that we also look at very heavily is research experience, because some students get an MBA or a Master of Science in Business because they want to continue on into a PhD program, and so they want to do more research-based type of work in the long run. So both types of experience are really important. It just depends on what your end goals are. We don't want you to fit your profile around what we're looking for. Rather, we want to make sure that it's a good fit. That's every business school's goal, is they want to make sure there's a good fit between our interests and your interests, because ultimately your success is our goal. Now, with regards to how to present this information, there's two different options I've found work best. The first one is check out your undergraduate institution to see if they have a career services office that offers any type of service for resume review and critiquing. They may even go as far as to actually build it from the ground up for you. But for some programs, it's free. Other programs, it's actually a nominal fee. For instance, at the University of Tampa, it's actually a free lifetime benefit for our students. So it's a nice little perk to have, knowing that maybe you'll be 35 one day and you'll be I'm ready for a new experience, ready to move on to something new. Well, guess what? You can go to that career services office and get some free tips and advice, do some mock interviews. So it's a nice little perk. One of the other options that I've noticed works well for our students is Career Builder has, and among many different companies, has a resume building service as well. That's a more expensive option, even compared to if your career services office charges. However, if you're looking at a long-term investment, it would be well worth the time and money to do it. But it's also an investment in terms of your likelihood of getting admitted to the business school as well. You want to make sure that you put your best foot forward, and this is one of many documents that is going to be your first step forward. And so with that, I'm going to pass this over to Christina, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the transcripts.
Okay, so I'm going to start talking about transcripts. The first thing I want to say is a lot of schools look at both overall and last 60 GPA. It's never too early to start maintaining good GPAs. As freshman classes, it's easier to have to pass with the good grades. However, if your first year, second year, the grades are decent, it's good to start catching up, because last 60 GPA, it shows how you're doing with your harder classes, and if you're doing well, the admissions committee will think you're improving and making progress throughout your undergraduate study. The quantitative classes are really important too. Make sure you have good grades. For example, if two students have the same GPA, the admission counselors and committees will take a look at the transcript to compare the quantitative class. Of course, the students with a higher grades of quantitative class will have a comparatively advantage. We also heard of the phrase advanced classes. Advanced classes are considered very important too. It's good to have advanced class on your transcript, but it is also essential to make sure you have a good portfolio. If you take a big number of advanced classes, but you get lower grades, it may not be a good idea too. Let's see the next one. Experiential education or internship. A lot of schools can pull your internship profile from your transcript. With this said, every time that you have done an internship, you can go to the designated office on your campus just to let them know that you've done this internship. So when the universities pull the information about your internship, they can see what you have done and what did you do and how are you doing with them. Okay. And let's move on to the next slide, study for the GMAT. GMAT is not an exam. You can just go there and without study anything. So that's we put study, study, and study here. There are multiple ways to study your GMAT exam. There are classes for GMAT prep you can find on internet. There are a lot of variety of options for them. Some students choose to study the official guide and they find it helpful. So that can be a good method to study too. Always check your school and if they offer any classes or career service. They usually have really good information too. Everybody is different. So we know that there are two types of exams for graduate school. There are GMAT and GRE. Recently, a lot of business schools also accept GRE score. And some students do find studying GRE is better than GMAT or one way or the other. So you can do some sample questions online, just do some research and test it and see which one is better for you. You may find GMAT is better or GRE. What do you need for what you want? There are different programs in schools. Just keep in mind some schools do require GMAT, some schools do require GRE, and there are different scores. Top schools, they require really high GMAT, and if you're determined to go there, then you're going to start it hard to get a high GMAT score. Some schools, they do not list their scores on the website, but you can do research and go on the blog and you find some student talking about it. So I find it really helpful. Some schools do not have GMAT requirements. And some schools around you, and you can go talk to the admissions counselors on campus to find out what exactly do they want besides GMAT. So all these information will help you set a goal studying for GMAT to get the score that you want. Resources are also really important. If you have friends, they went to the school you really wanted to go, always ask suggestion from them. What is it like going to the school, the program, the campus, and everything about everything that you want to know, you can ask them. They will give you the sincere and real information, and it's always good that you talk to faculties and staff to get insider information. If you can go to the campus, visit, or attend an information session, that's even better because you can feel the environment, talk to the admissions counselor. And when I visit the University of Tampa, I talked to several graduate assistants, and they gave me really, really valuable information. I stopped by a couple of professors' office, just asked general ideas of the program, and I found it really helpful. When you go online, then you can also research current students' bios. Go on YouTube, find some videos about the campus, the program, and with this research, blogs, and videos, and everything, you can make sure that you're getting to the program that you want to get in. And I'm going to pass it to my colleague Kate, and she's going to talk to you guys on the next slide.
Hello. Okay, I'm going to start out by talking about your personal statement. First impressions do count. Make sure that the personal statement you are writing is relevant and it's professional. Make sure it explains what you want to do with your future, why you think the school would be a good fit. Make sure it's school specific. Don't write one personal statement for all the programs that you're applying for. Also, make sure that you check it and you double check it. I had about 3 other people double check my personal statement for grammar issues when I applied for graduate school. I suggest having as many other people read it as possible. Make sure it is concise and to the point. Don't bog it down with information that's not relevant to the course or the program. An introduction about yourself is great and everything, but make sure it's professional and it's relevant to what you're applying for. Keep it interesting. Kind of like our Spartan picture here, it draws your attention and it's interesting. Make it stand out, and admissions see a lot of these, and so if yours is something interesting, it grabs their attention, maybe it tells a story, and it keeps their attention, that will really stand out to an admissions counselor. Next, we're going to go back to the GMAT and let you know the importance of the GMAT. Standardized tests really make it equitable academic ability. So everybody comes from a different undergraduate background, different programs. It puts everybody on the same page. I know here at UT we have a lot of students who don't necessarily have a business background applying for the MBA. This shows us that it measures the likelihood that they'd be able to succeed academically in our programs. Do they have the quantitative and verbal skills to be able to do well? It's good for both parties to know that, we know that you have the ability to do the program, and you know that you're not, overstepping your ability. So it's good for everybody. But it is also important to know that the decision is not entirely dependent on the GMAT. Check with each school. I know here at UT we have a holistic approach to it. For example, a student with a higher GPA that maybe doesn't do as well on the GMAT, maybe they're just a classroom person. They do better in the classroom, not as well on the standardized tests. We have to keep that in mind. There are just some students like that. On the other hand, someone could do really well in standardized tests and have to work really hard for their grades. Both of those, it's a holistic approach. Work experience also. If you've been out of school for a few years, you have work experience. Maybe that resume will make the difference for you because you've been out of school and you're a little rusty on some of your skills. That has to be put into perspective as well. Again, an interesting personal statement that we just talked about, or an outstanding recommendation from someone, could really push you over the edge as well. So keep those in mind. And last, we are going to go ahead and review the highlights. To start, it is never too early to prepare. Start research early. Look into all the schools. Make a list, maybe a spreadsheet of all the different pluses and minuses of every school that you're looking at. And start that your freshman, sophomore year, even if you're sure you want to go to graduate school. It's never too early to start. Keep an open mind in your research. Make sure that the program fits what you want to do. Maybe there's a school that you've always wanted to go to because your family went there, or it's always just been that dream school for you, but make sure that the programs they offer fit what you want to do in the future. Because sometimes that reality can set in once you're there, and that's a hard thing to overcome. It's better to know before you go there. Establish criteria in a program search and prioritize. Apply to a variety of schools to ensure you have options when you're going to make the choice of the school you want to go to. Make sure that you have a few schools that you're pretty sure you're going to get into, and a few schools that maybe you're not as sure you're going to get into, so that you have options when the day comes to choose where you want to go. So that is all of the information we have for you. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Gary for any questions you might have.
One thing that I meant to mention to everybody from the beginning of the presentation is luck would have it that everybody in the room right now is an alum of the University of Tampa's program. And we all enjoyed it so much that we have stuck around and enjoyed our experience a lot. So it looks like at this point there are no questions. So please do feel free. We'll hang on here for a few minutes to see if any questions do come through on the chat. All right, so we do have a question about the recommendations. Recommendations are important. A couple of things I'll point out about recommendations. Please don't have your mom or dad or your aunt or your uncle or anybody else in your family write the recommendation. I'm sure they'll have a very nice thing, many nice things to say about you, but what we're really looking for at the business school level in recommendations is, what's your academic ability like? What are your abilities to think strategically and outside of the box? So the kinds of things that, somebody that you've had as a professor might be able to say about you, maybe a previous employer or supervisor, even a current one. Those are really the kinds of people we're looking for, and just be smart about who you ask to write your recommendation. If you had, an experience that was less than perfect, let's try to steer towards going towards, a faculty member or a previous supervisor where you had an outstanding experience, because we'd rather, make this your opportunity to shine to the admissions committee rather than risking that opportunity having somebody that maybe isn't as thrilled about your experience. So make sure that you think through who you're asking to have recommend you. Another common question we get about recommendations is whether you have to fill out our predefined form or if it's okay to send in a letter. Really, we're open to either option. Both are great ways to convey information to us. We're just really looking to get an insider view of what you're like from a third party. Honestly, my personal preference, this isn't anybody else's other than my own, is to actually get a letter, because that gives the recommender the ability to focus on exactly what they want to tell us about you. To me, the form seems like it puts the recommender into a firm box, but it's not like, I'll say we have less preference for an applicant who had a recommender that filled out the form. So I think that recommendations are definitely very important, and especially who you select to do the recommendation. So I'm going to let Kate take the next question. And that question is, what advice would you give for international students looking to apply to B schools in the U.S.?
This is a great question, and I know that Christina or Tianyu works more with the international population now, but I have actually also worked with the international population. And some of the things I would suggest from an international student is to make sure you're communicating with the schools a lot, and make sure that you are emailing. If you have a chance to call them and kind of put a personal relationship to the application, that's a great start. I would also suggest starting earlier, and because there are visas and everything like that have to be put into place. So start even earlier than a domestic student to get all of that in place and make sure that you have options and everything is ready to go to start your process. And I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know if Christina has anything to add to that, but I'll go ahead and pass it on to her as well.
Thank you, Kate. I think, yeah, calling your admission professor, admissions counselor is definitely great because you can build connections and let them get to know more about you. Another thing I want to add is do research about the school you want to attend. Different from domestic students, they can do campus visits easily. International students do more research online. So Google the schools, find the program that you want to attend, find more detailed information. And also, for example, on University of Tampa's website, there is a virtual tour. You can actually go on there and look at the campus 360 degrees. So that is really cool. And I'm sure a lot of schools have similar features, so you can go on their website to get to know more about the schools. And I'm going to pass the phone to Gary to answer the next question.
We're going around the circle here, the circle of questions. So the next question, how do you make your essay unique? How much weight does an essay carry in the admissions decision? Well, to be perfectly upfront, if you've got a stellar profile, your essay will definitely play a factor. But the significance of it won't be nearly as great. With that being said, though, if you're on the fence of being admitted, that can really be a deciding factor. So I guess my point being is even though sometimes it doesn't play as much weight into the overall decision, I strongly recommend taking your time to really refine your essay or your personal statement to make sure that it's a very good, lasting impression of you. And I say that only because you'll never truly know, were you one of the borderline cases or were you somebody that was a clear-cut profile. So I would say the way to make your essay unique is talk about yourself. Find something that's impressive about yourself. So, if you did something in your undergraduate experience that's really unique and different, then go ahead and talk about that experience because guess what? Nobody else has probably done something quite like it. And that's something that's going to stand out in our memory when we're going through all the applications and preparing them for the admissions committee. So if it sticks out for us, I can only imagine how much that matters to the admissions committee that's reviewing it. So I would say definitely focus on yourself because that's who we're admitting at this point, and that's who we want to know the most about when we're making that decision is who are we bringing into the campus. So if you do a good job of selecting something that makes yourself unique, and if it can possibly be something even related to your involvement on campus, or maybe some work experience, or an impressive project that you undertook, and tell us about the outcomes and what steps you took to get there, that would be a really good start, I think. The next question is, what difference does it make to my resume if I choose a one-year MBA versus a two-year? So really, I would say I don't think that's going to alter your resume too much. Really, the only difference that I could think of off the top of my head is if you're applying to a one-year program, I would probably expect that you're going to be a full-time student, whereas if you're applying to a two-year program, more than likely you'll be a part-time student or you're going to be doing some work on the side. That's really the only difference I can imagine. I've never, in my interaction with other graduate programs, I've never really heard them say anything about distinguishing the resume between those two programs. Typically when we're preparing files, though, usually when we're comparing the two, that's really the only thing that is any different. And it might play into the accreditation factor as well when you start comparing the programs. So, like for instance, UT Psych College of Business is AACSB accredited. So that could play a factor as well because some other accreditations may not require that the transcript have any differences. But AACSB is a very, very rigorous accreditation, so and they don't ask us to have students distinguish their resume at all. And I mean, just to elaborate or illustrate the rigor, I mean, we have to have a very high percentage, 75% of our faculty have to be full-time that are teaching in the program. and we have to have 100% that have a PhD teaching in our master's program. So, I mean, if that gives you any kind of idea about the rigor, that would. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for that one, but that's the best I can do with that. The next question is an age of 29 to 30 or greater a hindrance while getting into a full-time MBA? No, we don't discriminate on age, and most programs, if not all programs, don't discriminate on age. The only thing I could think of why you might be asking that is if you're looking at the average age, but with any average, you've got the extreme low and the extreme high. Our average age for all of our graduate programs is right around the ballpark of 29 to 30, but for instance, in our executive program, we have students who are in their 60s in the program. So, I mean, we have a very diverse population. I mean, and we have some that are in their 60s, and then we also have some that are coming straight out of their undergraduate program, or they're dabbling their toes in the idea of going to graduate school, and they're in their last semester of their senior year at a university. But no, the age is not a factor. It's not going to make us deny or admit or anything of that sort. It's really just an on-the-side feature. If you're a full-time student, we'd probably look at you and say, okay, so you're probably going to take some time off to get through the program. But other than that, we're not really going to think much of an age. So the next question is a two-part question. So the first part is, on an average, how much work experience do the top B schools ideally look for? Usually, some of the top schools look for a little bit more work experience. And when I say a little bit more, probably 4 to 7 years of work experience typically. But at the same time, it also will vary based on the applicant pool. Programs have goals that they have to meet. So if their applicant pool has very competitive number of years of work experience, excluding all other factors, of course, then they may say it's 4 to 7 years, but it actually in reality ends up being more like 10 years, say. Other programs don't require any work experience. Like for instance, at University of Tampa, we don't require any work experience. So one thing that I would say is check out, pick out maybe 10 programs you're really interested in and start looking at their website and look for some student profiles. And that will give you a really good idea of the diversity and the years of work experience. Because even somebody with 2 or 3 years of work experience is going to have a totally different view on how business works. Because as most people know, there's a vast difference between the theoretical business world and the applied business world. And then the second part is, can an average GPA overcome a higher than average GMAT score? And I think, yeah, to a certain degree, it can help compensate for that. Again, the reason I hesitate to say anything really definitive about that is it really depends on the applicant pool and who's really applying at this point in time. Right now, I think is a pretty good time for having that balance out. A higher GMAT helping to balance out an average GPA. My best recommendation, though, is I would pick out, as Kate had mentioned earlier, pick out your top schools, but also pick out some safety schools, because you don't want to get to August 1st and find out that you don't have any options and all of the programs are full. So make sure that you plan it out, and I would set up a grid of all the programs you're interested in, find out what are the critical factors to you, such as the average number of years of work experience of the students or a minimum that they may require, look at the average GPA, GMAT, so on and so forth, and then put yourself on that grid and see where you fall in there, and then start assessing from there which schools should you apply to and categorize them. Say, these are my reach schools versus these are I'm pretty sure I'll be getting into these schools, so that you aren't left out in the dark and you can go ahead and start at a B school when you're ready to. The next question is, what do you do if you are waitlisted? you can try to send in gifts, but that doesn't work. There's only so much space, and really waitlisted is an honor to be on a wait list because it means that you weren't denied. It means that we really want you, but we just don't have space right now, and based on our current projections, we just can't risk admitting any more people. So if you're on the wait list, I would recommend go ahead and start applying to other programs. That grid that I was just referencing of programs that are your REACH programs as well as your within REACH programs, make sure that you've done everything with the in REACH programs and make sure that you're ready to go with those, because if you don't get pulled off the wait list, you want to make sure that you still have options. But cross your fingers that something will happen with the wait list. I can't speak for every program, but I can speak for us. Please don't call us every day if you are on the wait list because there's only so many spaces. We're checking that every morning to make sure that if there are spaces, we definitely get the right person off of the wait list first, and we're going to be in touch with you. We always reach out through multiple forms of media. We're making phone calls, sending out emails, we send a letter. So it's not like we have a 20-minute window and then we move on. We give you a few days if you're on the wait list to accept the offer. So if you're waitlisted, I would say don't give up hope, but at the same time, don't put all of your chickens in the egg, or don't put all your eggs in the one basket, rather, of getting into that waitlisted school. Start looking at some other options as well. Is it a good idea? So the next question is it a good idea to apply early to college? Will it have any influence on one's chances? Yeah, I would definitely recommend applying early because your application is in the pool sooner. You're going to get to know the admissions counselor that much earlier. And it also is a wide open playing field. So if we have 100 open seats, we have 100 open seats, at the beginning of the cycle. Towards the end of the cycle, rather, we may only have 20 seats left or 10 seats left. So now it's that much more competitive because we're at the end of the cycle. So by getting your application in early, it not only gets your file ready to go, and there's that many more seats that we're trying to fill, but you also get a chance to meet your admissions counselor, and you have the chance to find out from the admissions counselor where are we at in filling the class, so they can let you know, it's urgent that you complete your file as soon as possible. We're almost full. Or they can say, yeah, you still have a little bit of time, but I would still recommend make sure you get it in as soon as possible so that we can make sure to get you into classes. But just to reiterate, just because you apply early doesn't mean you're automatically admitted, but it definitely, the profile is different as we go along in the process because we have fewer and fewer seats to fill. Are there any tips on how to go about visiting a school? Is there a certain month or season that is better? Well, I can tell you about visiting Florida. A great time to visit is in the winter months when it's nice and sunny and warm down here. But I would say usually students like to visit after they've been admitted to our program typically. At UT, for instance, we have open houses for our graduate students. And that's when we invite them on campus to meet faculty, other current students, alums, and admission staff, among many other organizations that come out for that event. So I would say from institution to institution, it does vary quite greatly when those are offered. At UT, though, we offer that option in November and April every year. So if you are considering applying to UT, I would strongly recommend attending one of those, even if you haven't been admitted yet. But I would say that, leave it up to your own time frame. I mean, if there's a good time for you to get away, most programs aren't going to turn you away. We'll have the opportunity, if you'd like to meet with a faculty member, we'll go ahead and set up a special visit. But the nice thing about coming to a big venue or a big event like that, like an open house, is that everybody's right there all at once, and you get to see the enthusiasm of all of our current students as well as our alums, and you get to network with so many different people So that's why I would strongly recommend that type of an event. So the next one I'm going to let Christina handle. It's how do schools treat scores of international students that don't follow the GPA system, especially when there is no guidance given on conversion scales to use. Generally, they wouldn't do justice. So let me have Christina handle that.
So we know that the GPA scale is different for every country, and at the University of Tampa, we have a team of admissions team that work on converting students, international students' transcript, and we use the transcript scale from WES. If you go on their website, and you can actually find a scale, so you can estimate, look at your transcript, and talk to your admissions counselor and see what is the expected requirement for the school and compare your transcript so you can get an idea. That's why we also mentioned apply early. With that said, if you send in your transcript, we'll be able to tell your converted U.S. scale GPA. So that is recommended. Is there anything to add?
I just wanted to add, I know here at UT we will evaluate it on our own because we do have a large international population here, and we have the skills to do that. Some schools may also request a WES evaluation, World Education Services, so make sure you check with the specific school. But if it's a school like UT that has a large international population, they may be able to do it themselves. That's all I had to add.
Great, thank you. So our next question is, what did you mean when you mentioned relevant information in the personal statement? By relevant information, we mean just keep within bounds of information that's relevant to your admission to our graduate business program or any graduate business program. So don't tell us about, your sick family member that you had to care for, or, something that's not going to help us better understand who you are. Don't write about anything that's going to be a classic red flag to us either, that's going to give us reason to worry about your potential success in the program either. This is your time to show us how great you are, what a good fit you're going to be in our program, how you're really going to flourish in it, because ultimately our whole reason for going through the admissions process is it's our chance to make sure we fill those seats with students that are going to do well, because one, we want you to be successful, and two, we want you to be really happy in life, and you refer people back to us so that we can continue having such a successful program. And that's true of all programs. So the next question is, would it be a good idea to wait for the fall 2015 admission cycle to get a stronger GMAT score, or go ahead and apply for this fall with a lower score? And I guess what I would say to that question is, you have to think about why. I guess I would start having a conversation with that person directly. I would say, well, why is it that you're looking to increase your score? What is it that you hope to gain by doing that? I would recommend going ahead and go through the application process for this coming fall and find out. I mean, you may be surprised. You may actually get whatever it is that you're looking to by having a higher score. You may not actually need that higher score. But if you don't get whatever it is that you're looking for, then go ahead and cancel your admission and then reapply for the following fall semester. That would be my advice on that, because you don't want to miss out on the opportunity. You might be putting yourself through a lot more work than is really necessary. And I know most programs, we're included in this statement, will allow you to update your application, so you don't even have to resubmit all your transcripts and your personal statement, so on and so forth. All we ask is that if you do take additional classes or there is an update to your resume, just resubmit those documents to us so we can update those in our file. But otherwise, I would say, yeah, go ahead and and follow through with the fall 14 semester. If you don't get whatever it is you're looking for, then go ahead and cancel your application and then go through the fall 15 cycle. The next question is, how important is the ranking of one's undergraduate college? Most programs don't see it as that important. Really, it's the individual coursework that you're taking when you're in the program. I know for us that, unless it's a borderline case, then we'll start looking at that a little bit, but the rankings are rather skewed, so it's not even really that accurate of a representation. We will look a lot more closely at the accreditation of the school so that we get an idea of what kind of program is it. In other words, is it AACSB accredited? Oh, okay, so we're comparing AACSB to something else, and we may say, okay, well, it is AACSB, so yeah, we'll go ahead because we know what kind of caliber student this is based on the rigor that the faculty and the student outcomes are like. Whereas if it's not AACSB accredited, then we might say, oh, well, that may not be as good of an option. So I don't. To answer the question directly, no, I don't believe the ranking is what determines it. It's the accreditation, regional accreditation, as well as above and beyond accreditations that really matter. It looks like I've reached the end of my questions that have been posed so far. Okay, I have another question. Why the University of Tampa? What makes your MBA program stand out? Well, I guess I'm going to pass the phone around and let everybody have their own take on it since we've all done it. But I guess my reason that I came to UT's graduate business programs was the culture that's in the program and the students. The faculty know who you are. You walk up and down the hallway. You could have had a professor, 2 or 3 semesters ago, and they still remember you, what you're doing, what you've done. And having that personal feel and that personal interaction with them really made me successful. I've gone to a large classroom setting in my undergraduate experience, and that wasn't how I thrive. I need to be in a program where I get that personal attention and I have the opportunity to interact one-on-one with the faculty. And being right next to downtown Tampa, I know a lot of my friends ended up getting internships in downtown Tampa as well as job opportunities. So we're literally on the river banks of the downtown area with hundreds of different companies and corporations. I think that UT has a lot of great offerings. I'm going to pass it over to Kate to say why she chose UT.
My reasons are going to be very similar to Gary's, but I guess a slightly different spin on it. The learning environment at the University of Tampa is something that works well for me, and it does have to do with the small class sizes and the one-on-one attention from a professor. I'm just not the type of student who can sit behind a computer screen and learn online or anything like that. UT has a very personalized attention. As he said, the professors get to know you. One example, I got to work on an outside project with a professor whose class I was in that I was doing well at. And I don't think that's something that every school can offer because they don't have the small class sizes and the personalized relationship with the professor. And you just get, and it is the downtown location and the networking opportunities available at UT. We just have a good relationship with a lot of businesses and internship opportunities, and our professors are working in the real world so they can help you network and everything like that. So I think that's really why I chose UT's graduate programs. And I'm going to pass it to Christina.
As I work with a lot of international students, I just want to mention that our international students at the Graduate School of the University of Tampa are from 49 different countries and all 50 states, which means it is a really, really diverse background. And if you sit in the classroom, your classmates are from totally different end of the world. And it's a learning experience. You can learn about the culture and how they do business too. Gary mentioned about faculty and networking opportunities. I just want to say that faculties here at the University of Tampa, they publish and involve students in their research. So the graduate students, if they're interested in one topic, one subject, and they can ask questions and communicate with their the professors and faculty, and maybe they'll conduct research next semester with them. It is really, really helpful if you're going to postgraduate study or looking for jobs after. Okay.
Great. Thank you for helping me out with that answer. One of the other neat things about the university is if you sign up for our news feed on our main website, ut.edu, is you'll see how often our students are winning different competitions. Like recently, there were four or five of our graduate business students who were awarded the ACG Cup for financial demonstration of their abilities. So they were up against about 6 of our local competing graduate business programs, and they won that first place for the second year in a row. And so that was a really neat honor. But you'll see if you sign up for our news feed or just check back every once in a while, it's almost 1-2 times a week there's something really neat and impressive that our business students are involved with. And another question came in, how does the admissions committee review applications on the first look? Are they read, or are they filtered out by the admissions office? Really, the admissions office just prepares the file and pulls out the highlights of it, but the faculty committee still goes through and reviews the details of it. They don't weed out applications per se. What they do is they look through all of them first, jog their memory by putting some notes on the files and highlighting different things. And then there's an open discussion that happens where they talk about, this applicant they really like for this reason, or that applicant they like for another reason. So they cross-compare their notes, and all the ones they agree on for accepting or denying, those are immediately taken care of. And then the rest of them, they go through and discuss them back and forth to figure out who's going to be the best fit, because they all bring in different viewpoints of why somebody will or won't be successful in the program. I'm looking at my question list. I'm not seeing any new questions that have come in. These are great questions, though. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. You can also post them to our discussion board on Beat the GMAT. We monitor that regularly. Please feel free to like our profile on there as well and follow us so you can get the regular updates. For instance, that ACG Cup that I just mentioned a minute ago, we posted something about that on there. And as we have other neat breaking things happening on campus that are really commendable for our current students and alums, we're posting that on there as well. All right, we have another question. There are no courses like accounting or economics on your transcript, but both bachelor degree and master degree transcripts are 4.0. Will the transcript count, or is it necessary to take additional courses in economics? I think that's going to actually vary from program to program because economics is a fundamental skill and a course that needs to be taken to be successful in the higher level coursework in an MBA or a Master of Science program in a business school. However, some schools are prepared to offer the prerequisite course. So like at the University of Tampa Psych College of Business, we do have the prereq version of that. So if you're applying to University of Tampa, we just tell you, okay, you'll be taking all the normal classes anybody else would be taking, but you're going to take this one class. And we're not doing that to punish you. We're doing that just because we want to make sure that you're successful once you enter that the MBA courses, because they're going to skip right over a lot of the fundamental things and dive in directly into some of the higher level concepts. So we want to make sure that you're set up for success. All right, well, it looks like we've answered all the questions, and we're just out of time now. So I just want to say thank you again for joining us, and I want to say thank you to my colleagues as well for helping out. And please feel free to send us any other questions that you may have. You can contact any of us if you email utgrad@ut.edu. So that's utgrad@ut.edu. All right, thank you.